Welcome to episode 142 of the Leader Post Rider Rumblings podcast. I am Taylor Shire. He is Darrell Davis, and we are back for another episode discussing another Saskatchewan Roughriders win as they came away with a 19-9 victory over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers last week. Darrell, I would say it's probably the cleanest win that this team has had so far. Obviously, they played well in all three phases. Didn't put up a ton of points, but when you keep the Blue Bombers to 3 field goals, good things can happen.
Yeah, that's true, Taylor. They didn't totally dominate. At the end of the game, they were only up 7, and one big play by Jameer Thurman stripping the ball from Nick Dembski really made sure that the Riders held on to it. But, it never seemed like they were out of control either. So that's a good sign. You and I have talked about this being a tough 4-game stretch for the Roughriders. They started with Toronto, beat Toronto, lost to BC, beat Winnipeg, and now they have to travel to Montreal. They're for sure at least 500 through this stretch. So that's a huge win as far as the Roughriders are concerned.
Yeah, and to me, this was a statement game to say, hey, we're not pretenders anymore. I know Winnipeg's not as good, but you have to still beat them in order to jump ahead of them in the West Division. And I think the Riders really, made it known that they're for real this year with that sort of, I'll call it wasn't dominant, but they were in control throughout most of the game. They were sort of not running away with it, which, to put your foot down, I think would be certainly more of a statement, but they held on. The defense played well. The offense did enough to win. They were just fine on special teams. So to me, it was sort of a statement game. How do we bounce back from the first loss to BC and really say, we're in this West Division race? And I think they showed that on Friday night.
Yeah, they pitched a defensive shutout, right? They didn't allow a touchdown. And we've always thought of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as having this explosive offense. We realize that they're missing Kenny Lawler and Dalton Schoen, and Zach Collaros doesn't seem to be the same quarterback he used to be. But shutting out a CFL team without a touchdown is really pretty impressive. And that's been the most impressive part of the Roughriders this year is their defense. Some of the turnovers they force really turned games around. And once again, that's what did it. It assured a victory by that big turnover at the end of the game, or near the end of the game anyway. So they did play pretty well on special teams again. And their offense with Shea Patterson as quarterback wasn't bad. Once again, it maybe didn't win them the game, but it certainly didn't cause them any troubles and didn't lose the game for them.
Mm-hmm. And back to that turnover, I think Dembski, he might have been very well scored on that play. I think he had already gained 50 yards. He had almost a clear shot to the end zone. That would have obviously completely flipped the game, would have probably tied it up. Who knows what the end result would be. So timely turnovers, big plays. I think Corey Mace said after the game, sprinting to the ball is the biggest thing. And you see Jameer Thurman, if you watch the replay, he's running from behind. He catches up to him and pops it out of there. He knew exactly what he was doing. So to have playmakers like that on this team is only going to bode well for them in the future. And everyone's going to buy in when things like that happen. You see other guys, it's not just you getting excited when you make a big play, but your teammates around you, and everybody sort of feeds off of that. So when you have playmakers like Thurman, like Roland Milligan, even Marcus Sales, I think had a good game. It collectively makes the group better when you have those guys like those 3 veteran players.
Right, and they had to shuffle around their defensive line a little bit too, so they had decent pressure. They did pretty well everything. We've been marveling at Roland Milligan Jr., the defensive back, how well he's playing, but we've also given props to Jameer Thurman, their middle linebacker, the offseason acquisition of him. Just amazing how well he's played. Teams can't run against him. Brady Oliveira came in here after 2 straight 100-yard games, and we're thinking can he run against this team now? They held him to 49 yards rushing. So this team is Jameer Thurman a real key to this team. And as you say, every big play seems to be something really inspiring. And this team draws from each other. The stuff that Corey Mace, the head coach, wanted was this family atmosphere where they're proud of each other. They forgive each other's mistakes and move on and reward each other's successes. And it seems to really translate into the scoreboard.
And you mentioned Shea Patterson, obviously getting his 3rd start, picking up his 2nd win. Had the only touchdown pass in the game to fullback Clint Ratkovich. It was an outstanding play because I think the Bombers really bid on the run, the fake to AJ Ouellette, and Ratkovich sort of peeled off the edge, kind of like a tight end, and was wide open in the end zone. And the fullback made his first touchdown catch. He's kind of been a secret weapon. I think I talked about in the first episode that he would be the secret weapon for this team this year. They haven't used him as much as I thought so far, but he made a big play in a big moment.
I'm with you on that one. I can't believe they don't use Ratkovich more often. Obviously, they like AJ Ouellette, and Ratkovich is listed as the backup fullback, so they can get him under the the playing field a little bit more, but he is a weapon in a lot of different ways, and he proved it. And he was forgotten because they don't use him so much. So maybe it played right into the strategy, I guess, in that respect. He's a good player, but so is AJ Ouellette, who's playing better. And this offense is making some good calls at the right time. We should credit once again Mark Mueller, the offensive coordinator. I thought that the offense really started opening up after Shea Patterson had that run-pass option, and he kept the ball and ran that quarterback draw. It was fairly early in the game, and that's all of a sudden when the game started opening up a little bit for the Rough Riders, because now you have to watch Shea Patterson as a runner, just like you have to watch AJ Ouellette as a runner, and Shea Patterson throwing. So diversifying that offense has really helped it, and it's making it more and more productive as this season goes along.
Before we talk about the Riders' next game in Montreal on Thursday, there's two things that I want to talk about that involve Shea Patterson. One is what's the situation with him and Trevor Harris when he comes back, and two is the Adam Bighill hit at the end of the game. So let's start with the Bighill hit. Time is expiring. Patterson takes the snap, tries to run out the clock. We saw it last year when Trevor Harris did this against Edmonton and took a big hit to the hip and was basically limited all week. Patterson throws it up. Bighill comes over and not only hits him hard, but lands on him and puts all his body weight on him and forces him to the ground. You could see Shea Patterson getting up quite slow. To me, it looked like it was going to be a serious injury. With how slow he was getting, or something was going to be hurt. He says he's fine. So what did you think about the hit? And take me through it.
Shea Patterson was far too gracious afterwards, saying he gave credit to a veteran linebacker for teaching him a lesson. And it's true, Shea Patterson should have thrown the ball away quicker. That's the way that the play is designed. He only had to kill 5 seconds. If you throw it high in the air, 5 seconds are out. But the hits that the league is trying to get out of the game are the hits where quarterbacks aren't supposed to be hit. And in that respect, why was Adam Bighill? Sure, he's chasing him. And I know all the football players, Eddie Steele and all these guys across the country say, he's making a football play. Okay, he made the play. He pushed him. But as you said, Taylor, Adam Bighill jumped on Shea Patterson, put his entire body weight on him, crashed onto his shoulders. It looked like a deliberate attempt to injure the quarterback, which is what all players try to do, obviously. But this was unnecessary and, in my mind, illegal. I'm amazed he didn't get a penalty. I still think he might get fined. We're going to wait. When we record this is early before the suspensions come out, so we might be right. I might be wrong. But I believe he should be fined or punished even more so for that, because there was no need for him to crash onto Shea Patterson. It's not the type of hit that should be allowed. If they're trying to take those hits out of the game, then this is a perfect example to say, stop that. Shea Patterson learned a lesson. Hopefully Adam Bighill learned a lesson. But remember, Bighill got fined last year for a high hit on Shea Patterson too. So maybe he's headhunting a little bit. Biggie's a good player, or was a good player, and he still plays with a ferocity that is appropriate for this league. But he cannot and he should not be making hits like that.
Yeah, I'm completely unnecessary. Shouldn't have done it, but he's on the losing end of that game. He's probably pissed off a little bit, right? He's going to make that play because of all those things, and he's going to add fuel to the fire of this rivalry, because he's that ultimate competitor, if you want to call him that. So I'm not surprised that he did that, but I'm surprised that Shea Patterson or even the Riders put him in a position to take a hit. You're up 10 points. There's 4 seconds left. Even run it back 5 yards and take a knee, or punt it away. Like Winnipeg is not going to score twice in the span of 4 seconds. I don't care what you do. You could hand the ball to them and let them run into the end zone. By the time they run to the end zone, they score 6 points. Time's going to be expired. So it didn't, to me, it was just so surprising that they made that call to put him in a situation to have the ball in his hands and potentially take a hit. Obviously, yes, he should have thrown it earlier and should have gotten rid of it, whatnot. But even step backwards for 10 seconds or 5 seconds and take a knee. Sure, they might be coming at you, but you can take a knee and hopefully they don't spear you to the ground. So to me, I'm sort of surprised that he was even in a position to take that hit, and we're even discussing this, because totally avoidable.
Yeah, and almost any play would have killed that last 5 seconds. So why do you put your quarterback at risk? Bad call by the Riders. They don't make many bad ones, but that's one that was unnecessary. But a bad play by Adam Bighill as well. And the Riders are lucky that their quarterback wasn't injured, or apparently wasn't injured.
Yeah, if it was a one-score game, sure, maybe my point's not as valid, but it was a 2-score game at that point.
Yeah.
So totally not something that they'll want to do again, especially.
Well, that's what players around the league are saying. Why are you throwing a pass with 5 seconds left in a 2-score game? Well, he wasn't throwing a pass, and that's kind of what Corey Mace told Mike O'Shea at the end. We weren't throwing a pass; we were trying to kill the clock. And O'Shea realized that. Bighill should have realized that too. He's smart enough and he's been around long enough. They're just killing time on this one. But if you get a shot at a quarterback, he took it and he got away with it so far.
Yeah, so it appears, no major injury to Shea Patterson, at least not following the game. So Trevor Harris is going to be back eventually. He's been throwing on the sidelines last week. He appears to be trending in the right direction. There's been no timeline given on when he'll play. So how does the situation play out in your mind when Trevor Harris finally does return to practice and Shea Patterson is still playing well or still winning games? How does that situation play out?
Yeah, I've been kind of amazed at the public outcry. People saying, "Hey, put Shea Patterson in for the rest of the season. He's doing his job and proving it." No. Trevor Harris is the starting quarterback on this team. They're paying him big money to be the starter. He's the leader of this team. Yes, he's injured. They put him on the 4-game injury list, which was a great idea. I'm sorry he's hurt, obviously. But rather than one game him all the way down, with the 6-game injury list, he's going to miss quite a few games. 4, so this looks like his 4th coming up. And that allowed Shea Patterson to step in without looking over his shoulder every game and thinking, as soon as I mess up, Trevor Harris is back in. And Patterson has gotten better because of it. Is he great? No. Is he good? Yes. He's done a pretty good job, and you see the improvement. And will he continue to improve? Probably. He seems to be improving every single time he's out. But you don't take that and say, okay, Shea, you're our starter. See you, Trevor Harris. You can't do it for financial reasons and one thing. And that's not what the room will want. Corey Mace the head coach, is really good at reading this room. And he knows their best chance of winning is with Trevor Harris. The fact that Shea Patterson's getting better, good for him. He'll be ready to go in if needed, but you can't make that change. That would totally disrupt the atmosphere in that room. Don't you think, Taylor, that they understand who the starting quarterback is, and they're going to win with their veteran? Maybe down the road in a year or two, or maybe at the end of this year you make that move, but not during the season.
I just don't know how much you disrupt the confidence of Shea Patterson if you say, hey, if he wins a couple more games and say is 4-1 as a starter, how do you tell him, hey, thanks for coming out, but you're going to go back to be a backup. But we want to keep you around, and we want to have you're the quarterback of the future. So next year, the year after, you can be this guy. I get it. Trevor Harris, I think, gives the Riders the best chances to win the Grey Cup this year. Shea Patterson gives the Riders the best chance to be in Grey Cups for multiple years down the road. Okay. So that I don't necessarily think Trevor Harris is going to be signed after this year if Shea Patterson continues to play like he's been playing. So you have a quarterback of the future. Well, what do you do this year? Do you put all your eggs into Patterson and say, hey, we're off to a really good start. Let's see what you can do and see if you can develop. Or do you go back to Harris and let him run this team and maybe go on a Grey Cup run, and then Patterson can say, oh, I had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 starts last year. You head into next year with that experience. He's your quarterback 1. Trevor Harris, I don't know if he retires, whatever he does. He's 38 years old, so he's nearing the end of his career. He's on a 1-year deal. So that to me is what is likely going to play out. I just hope it doesn't hurt Patterson's confidence when he gets relegated to the backup duties. I don't think it will. I think he understands that any playing time is valuable, right? And then
Bingo.
he's going to say, okay, I took this. I can sort of decompress all the playing time I had, go back, watch, learn, continue to grow, and then take that playing time that he got this year into camp next year and sort of be that quarterback of the future that we always talk about and how you develop quarterbacks. So that's how I see it playing out. I don't know if it's necessarily the right move because Cody Fajardo took the reins in 2019 and they ended up trading away Zach Collaros, and obviously Cody Fajardo developed into a pretty darn good quarterback. So had Zach Collaros came back from his injury and taken over the reins from Cody, and Cody was now a backup quarterback, how would his confidence be? I don't know if the Riders would have gotten to the West Final like they did in 19 and almost make it to the Grey Cup. So That's the one thing in this is that you don't want to hurt the confidence of a good young quarterback.
Here's the point. Shea Patterson knows where he belongs in the hierarchy on the pecking order. He knows he's the backup to Trevor Harris. That's why he came in. He hasn't been a starter. He started 3 games. You don't make this move yet. He knows that he's the backup. Yes, your point about confidence is okay, but the fact that he can build that confidence and then say, okay, I know that I'm a placeholder for Trevor Harris. That's what my job is at the moment. I've proven I can play, and if there's no opportunity for him later, but you don't make this move in the middle of the season. You might at the end of the season, as you were talking about, Taylor, but now you don't, because Shea Patterson knows what his job is. He's been given a nice space to do it in 4 games. It looks like 4, maybe 5, maybe 6. Harris could be gone for 6, right? We're not sure how long he's going to miss. But to do that and say, Shea, you've looked pretty good. We're going to put you in the starting role. He doesn't need that. He's going to get his confidence anyway as a part-time starter, as the backup, and now he knows that if Trevor Harris, and the team knows that if Trevor Harris goes down, he can step in. But Shea Patterson doesn't need to be to continue building his confidence if he's already built it and then put back where he's supposed to be. That's how it works in football. You don't lose your job because of an injury. Once in a while it happens.
Yeah, sure, you do. That's what everyone says, but that's not true because it does happen.
It does happen. But if you do it at the wrong time, and that would be the wrong time for the Roughriders, and I cannot see Corey Mace making a decision like that. I think it would be suicide for that football team if he were to make a decision like that.
Yeah, I just think if you're Shea Patterson, say if you win in Montreal this week, you have Edmonton next week, all of a sudden you only have 1 loss as a starter. You say, what did I do wrong? Like, why am I? I get it. I think Trevor's going to be the starter.
And how many losses does Trevor Harris have as a starter?
I know, and I get that, but I'm saying if you're Shea Patterson, what more could I have done? Oh, sorry, I didn't beat BC, but what more could I have done as a starting quarterback? Led this team to wins. I have more potential. My ceiling's higher. This, that, the other. So but I agree. I don't think Trevor is going to be relegated to the backup position, but maybe they keep him on the injured list, right? Like I think if Trevor returns, he's going to play. But I don't see any situation where Trevor Harris doesn't return this year. So I'm not even going to go down that road. I think they'll bring.
And at
Trevor
the end
back.
of the year, your point is valid. You say, listen, Trevor, you're 38 years old. You've been hurt the last 2 years. We've got a guy who's proven himself in Shea Patterson. We can move forward without you. But you let Trevor Harris finish the season because that's what you've committed. You've committed your team to that, not only on the roster and in the dressing room, but also in your financial scale. You have to do it this way, right? So,
and I agree. And I think, like I said, Trevor is a great quarterback and gives this team the best chance to win this year.
Yep.
And I think that's what it comes down to. You don't say, oh, in 5 years we hope to be in a Grey Cup. This isn't a rebuild in the NHL where you sort of develop that young centerman or that goalie or whatever it is. It's the CFL. It's win now, develop this year, win this year, and figure it out next year.
Yep. The future is now in the Canadian Football League.
Yes. All right. So the Riders have Montreal this week. Mentioned Cody Fajardo. It doesn't sound like he's going to be the starting quarterback on the other side of the football. It's likely they're going to go with Caleb Evans as Fajardo is dealing with a hamstring injury. The Alouettes coming off a bye week. The Riders have a very, very short week. Short practice Monday, normal practice Tuesday, and then they're off to Montreal Wednesday for Thursday's game. So a short week against a really good team, the defending champs. There's a lot of challenges that the Riders will have at them this week.
Yeah, the CFL schedule makers are getting rightfully criticized for these short weeks. There's no reason for them to do this. With the bye worked in, there's a way around it all the time. There's the Riders back-to-back short weeks. This is one of the toughest road trips going to Montreal. It's a tough place to play. You're right about Cody Fajardo. When we're recording this, we're not sure if Cody Fajardo is going to play. He didn't play against them last year. He was injured. So everybody's kind of waiting for Cody Fajardo to make his appearance again against the Saskatchewan Roughriders, the team that dumped him in everybody's mind. He's played well since then, and it would be great to see that showdown, especially if Saskatchewan's basically in first place in the West. They're tied for first, and Montreal's the best team in the East and the reigning Grey Cup champions. It would be a great showdown. It might be a battle of 2 backup quarterbacks, so you get to see whose depth is the better of the 2 teams. Both defenses have been playing great. We've talked about Saskatchewan and its turnovers. Montreal has been very stingy in terms of offense, allowing offensive yards. It's going to be a great match to watch, and it's basically for boasting rights. Who's the best team in the league right at the moment? And it is kind of strange. So as we talked about, that it's probably going to be two backup quarterbacks leading their teams.
Yeah, but the first team in the East and the first team in the West going head-to-head, obviously with BC losing on the weekend, the Riders technically jump ahead with the game in hand, although BC does have the season series so far with their win. So, this is sort of a showdown for, we'll call it the power rankings, who's going to be at the top spot in the CFL power rankings, because these are the teams with the fewest losses. So I just don't know if it's that, I don't want to call it fair, but like, Alouettes are coming off a bye week. The Riders just played a very physical game against Winnipeg and now have a short week and have to go on the road. I don't want to get fined for this from the CFL. I know McLeod Bethel Thompson went off again this week.
Good for him.
It just doesn't make sense, man. There's got to be another way where the Riders don't have to go on the road on a short week, or any team doesn't have to go on the road on a short week. You can sure have a team at home on a short week. That's fine, and that's going to happen. But to have to go across the country on just 2 days of practice after you played a game less than a week ago is pretty crazy to me.
How about the schedule makers who sent the Rough Riders to Vancouver and then to the Maritimes on back-to-back weeks? Smarten up, you guys. Just take a look at the schedule. And as McLeod Bethel Thompson says, these are human beings. These are guys trying to fulfill their livelihood and support their families. You can't just keep putting them out there. Maybe once a year it will happen, but the schedule makers are going to make Edmonton do it 3 times. They're going to make a lot of teams do it 2 times. I don't think Ottawa has to do it at all, so I don't hear any complaints coming from Ottawa, but every other team has to. Even Jason Moss, Alouettes head coach, says football's not to be played on 5 days rest. These guys do take a battering. It's not soccer where all you do is run around for 90 minutes. I know that's tough, but it's not the physical pounding that these offensive linemen and defensive linemen and even the quarterbacks and the running backs take. So there's no reason for them to have it. I hope these teams survive it. It was ugly to watch Ottawa and Edmonton play, and they're playing again back-to-back. How many guys are getting hurt long-term? Hopefully nobody gets hurt long-term, and it's just a great, exciting, well-played game on Thursday between the Alouettes and the Rough Riders.
All right. Well, we are looking forward to it. That'll do it for this episode of the Rider Rumblings podcast. Darrell, thanks as always for joining me.
Good seeing you, Taylor.